How are you all doing today? Here is very, very wet, very dull, very dark. Yeah, school run today, got a little bit drenched. How are you all doing? What have you been up to? What have you been making, most importantly? Today I'm going to show you how to make some very lovely bracelets. We've got lots of spaces, some gorgeous coloured pearls, a little bit of wire. It looks more tricky than it is. I think they're really, really lovely. I think they're very, very pretty. And I hope you enjoy making along with me this morning. So I'm going to say hello to you before I take you over to the website and show you what we've got today. So good morning to Rachel. She says good morning in a very wet Barrow. And Frances is in as well. And she says good morning to everybody. On the website today, your kits are a real bargain, because you're getting 3 bracelets in each kit. So you're going to be getting lots and lots of spaces and lots of lovely wire and things to play along with. Good morning to Star. She says good morning everybody. And Natalie from a wet Manchester. Trish is wishing everybody a good morning, and Tina is as well. So I'm going to take you over to the website now and we can have a little look at what is in our kits today. So we're going to head over to the website. It is totallybeads.co.uk, and there you'll be able to find all our wonderful tutorials. If we click into this section here and scroll down, you'll see today is our Yvonne wire bracelets just here. So these are your colour choices. They've been reduced, so they're just £9.99, and you are making 3 bracelets in each one. You've got the lovely aubergine in gold. I didn't know whether to put this on the pink, but if you want to get more than one kit, you can change the spaces. When I say the pink, like the rose gold, I thought would look lovely with the aubergine. And I also think this gorgeous, gorgeous one we've got here, the light peach, I think that would also look quite nice against the gold. I think it would bring out more of the yellow tone in that. So if you do want to get more than one kit, you're making up 3 bracelets in each one, so you can play around with what spaces you use in each one. But this is how I've put them together. So the aubergine is on the gold. You've got the gorgeous forest green, which is also on the gold. You've got French grey on the silver. It's a beautiful, beautiful colour, that French grey. You've also got your light peach, which, as I say, I've popped on the rose gold spacer beads and wire. We've got the rose pink, and we've also got the sky blue, which is on like a rhodium kind of silvery kind of rhodium colour. So I'll take you into each of your kits and you can see exactly what's in there. So this is your aubergine. You're getting 0.4mm wire. I'm using about 2 generous meters, I would say, of the 0.4 wire for making one of these bracelets, and they're coming out at 8 inches. So it's easy to adjust them. If you want to add a longer bracelet, add a little bit more wire in. If you want a shorter bracelet, I would still use at least 2 meters. They can have a little bit of a stretch to them with the wire. The wire lends itself really well for this make. You've also got your glass pearl rounds, which are 6mm in size. You've got your spacer beads, which are 4mm, some jump rings and a lobster clasp as well. If you want to use a larger jump ring, I'm not sure what size the jump ring is in your kit. I'm using the 6mm here, but if you want to add a slightly larger one on, if you find it's a little bit easier, then that's up to you. You can change the clasp on this if you want, but I've popped in the lobster clasp for you today. So that's £9.99 for 3 bracelets, and this one is your lovely aubergine, kind of a very deep plummy purpley colour. It's very pretty. We've got the forest green, which I think is very lovely for Christmas, to be honest. It's, again, you've got your 0.4mm wire, your glass pearl rounds are 6mm, your spacer beads are 4mm, your jump rings and your lobster clasp. If you want to have a look exactly what it is that's in your kit, you can have a little scroll down and you can see the components there, so you can see what colour of the glass pearls we're using and what your spacers are as well. Then we've got the French grey, which is just really, really gorgeous. Have a little look. Do excuse my rather hairy wrist in that photograph. But you can see those lovely, lovely almost kind of petal shapes that we're making, and they're just going to alternate up and down, and it's really easy to create that effect. All the kind of the secrets, I suppose, are on the underneath. So when I show you these down on the mat, I'll show you where the wire sits and how that works. So this one is your beautiful French grey. You've got the light peach as well. So as I say, if you were to put these, I think this is very, very bridal. I'll show you them down on the mat. I think it's just beautiful. It really brings out the soft tone to that peach, putting them with the rose gold. But I do think they'd look lovely against the gold as well, and that would bring out more of a kind of yellow tone in those glass pails for you. So that one is your light peach. We've got the rose gold with the rose pink. Very soft, beautiful colour. I will show you them, as I say, on the mat so you can see the tone of those a little better. But you can see here, I think this colour is a lot more true to what's on my photograph. And we're using that with the rose gold wire as well. And obviously your jump rings and your findings will be rose gold. So this is what I'm going to demo for you today. And then we have the beautiful sky blue as well. So this is against kind of the rhodium spacer beads that we've got here. And I think the tones look really lovely together. And that's going to be on your silver 0.4 wire. So I think that's 6 lovely colours for you to choose from. Yeah, 6 lovely colours for you to choose from. Just £9.99, and you're making 3 bracelets in each one there. So I'm going to head back over. I'll leave that up a little longer. If you want to have a little look, check out totallybeads.co.uk and you'll be able to find your kit today. And I'm going to say hello to everybody who's just come in and see what I've missed when my computer kicks in, because it's such a delay, I have to say, when my computer kicks in for it to actually work. So who did I say hello to? I said hello to Rachel, Francis, Star and Trish. Tina arrived, hello to you. Denise said good morning to everybody from a rainy Coventry, which strangely enough, Joanne comments just underneath her. Also, good morning to me and everybody, and she's also in a wet Coventry. Good morning to Elaine. Good morning to Camille. Okay, so Camille says she's not seeing me on Facebook. If I have a little look, I'm apparently on YouTube is streaming. Kitty Robinson's Designs is streaming. Totally Handmade on Facebook and Totally Beads says it's streaming. I don't know why it isn't showing. Is everybody else okay, or is everybody having a bit of an issue there? It says it's working for me, and I don't know how to change it while I'm live. So hopefully it will work. It will explain why it was a little bit quiet when I first arrived, though. Good morning to Tina. Hello to Denise. Robin's in as well. She says, good morning, Lady Natalie. Hello to all of the wonderful beady friends. Starting to get lovely fall weather in New Jersey, USA, even though I'm on a total she's a total summertime lover. It's been a real mixed bag here, Robin. We had a really nice, warm, bizarrely warm weekend last weekend, and now it's just very, very wet, and it's also getting a lot colder as well. Star says lovely colours, thank you very much. Joy says good morning, Natalie, beautiful bracelets. May have to do it for my sister whose name is Yvonne. Oh, that's nice. Good morning to Kath. She says good morning, Natalie and everybody. Hello to Angela. Good morning to Mina. Camille says, are you watching on Facebook? I can't seem to get in this morning. I am seeing comments from people watching on Facebook, Camille. I don't know why it's not working for you. It is streaming, and I can see people like Facebook user says, oh, this is beautiful. Thank you so much. Good morning to Jan. Okay, she said, it's finally come on Facebook. Good morning, everybody. Sheila's in as well. She says she was also having trouble connecting. I think, as Laura said, the weather bizarrely just affects maybe signal. I don't know. A little bit of rain and we all shut down. Nicole's in. She says, hello, Natalie and fellow beaders. It's been a while since I've tuned in to see a live video. It has been. How are you doing, Nicole? I hope you're well. Mina also says it took her a little bit of a while to find us this morning. Good morning to Birgit. She's saying hello to everybody. Jan says it's wet and windy in Sudbury. Kath says she can see me on Facebook okay. Carol's watching on Facebook. She says hello. Sheila says it's working. She gave me the thumbs up. My lamp is wobbling. What am I doing? I don't want that wobbling during the live, but let's see how we get on. Friday the 13th, isn't it? That's possibly why, though I do think it's really a lucky day, not an unlucky day. Karen says she's watching on Facebook. Good morning to Anne. Hello to Joanne. She says totally beads didn't kick in straight away, but the rest were fine. Okay. That, don't know why, but as long as we're working now. Good morning to Sharon. Good morning to Jan. She says the bracelets are beautiful. Thank you, Jan. Good morning to Elaine. She says she's on Facebook, but she had no notification coming up on the Totally Beads page, but she's managed to find us on the feed. Kath says the bracelets are lovely and gorgeous. Thank you. Joanne says, good to know there's someone else from Cov. Yeah, well, there you go. It's a small world. Good morning to Edward. How are you doing? Camille says, oh, yeah, it's Friday the 13th. Well, I think originally Friday the 13th was considered, it was a celebration, I think, of Freya, who's the goddess of fertility. So it was meant to be a day where you would get lucky, shall we say, rather than be unlucky. But I think different religious powers changed the meaning of it. So I always try and consider it as a lucky day. And I think it's your mindset. If you're positive about it, you'll be fine. If you're panicking about it, you'll attribute everything. You'll focus on the negative stuff. That's my go-to anyway. Robin says the bracelets are beautiful. You had me fooled. I thought that we were getting a stitch tutorial with thread. Can't wait to see how you weave this with wire. And Camille says, I've missed all the bracelets. There's 6 colours for you. I'll take you down on the mat now, Camille, and you can see them. Here they are. A little bit close up, so I will take them off. Okay, so they're really, really pretty. And they are done with wire. And if I open them up, you'll see where the wire kind of runs. So in order to get this up and down effect, you'll see the wire will run, excuse me, little tickle. You'll see this wire kind of runs always through the center. So you'll know exactly whether you're going up or down with it. It's really easy to do. So this is the beautiful kind of pinkish color on the rose gold. Hopefully you can see that okay. Do excuse me, I'm just going to have a sip of drink because typical, as soon as I start chit-chatting, it goes. Now this is your gorgeous, I think this is your French grey. So you can see on the rhodium, it just looks so beautiful. Camille says, pretty shinies. Joanne says, I believe it's a lucky day too. Tend to get bad luck most days, just not Friday the 13th. I'm going to show you the difference between the rhodium with the French grey and with the beautiful blue. There's so many sparkles. The ring light is absolutely bouncing off these gorgeous spaces. So it's not giving probably a proper true effect, but you can really see how beautifully shiny they are, even with the pearls. You see that little circle in the middle, that's not there, it is just my ring light. We've got the beautiful aubergine with the gold, but as I say, you could put that maybe with the rose gold if you were to get more than one, and I think that would be really pretty. And then this is the beautiful light peach. Now I've put that against the rose gold and I do love it. I think it just brings out that lovely softness. But again, if I was to place that next to the gold, it would bring out more of a yellow tone. So if you want to get more than one kit, you're getting 3 bracelets in each one. So you could make one in each. You've got more than enough to do that if you want to change up the colorways. And then we've got the green as well, which, as I say, I think is very pretty all year round, particularly for Christmas. Go nice actually with my jumper. In fact, rather than place it against my arm, I'm going to open it up and just show you how they will sit. So it's quite a bold, quite chunky cuff, I think. But again, I think that pattern just makes them look very, very elegant. And this is how they sit. I am thinking of maybe using this design in something, because I think that would make a beautiful necklace as well. Might need quite a little bit of wire though. Nicole says the grey is very pretty. Well, I think greys often get a little bit understated, don't they? They're just like forgotten about, but actually I think they're all beautiful. I really, really do love this design. I was very, very pleased with them. Nicole says the grey is very pretty, and Sheila says gorgeous bracelets, lovely for party season. So you can see just how easy they are to open up, and they look like this. So I'm going to get going with you. As I say, I'm going to take 2 generous arm lengths, so 2 meters of my 0.4 wire. I'm probably not going to use it all today, so I don't think I'm probably not going to now for the demo use 2. I'll probably just use 1. But when I say a meter, I go like this, and my full arm is about a meter. So you want to do that twice. And I will take myself back down on the mat. Good morning, Jackie. How are you doing? So 2 generous arm lengths, 2 meters of that 0.4 wire. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my ends together just so I can find that center. Now I'm going to keep making sure, because when I first start, I am going to be using quite a long length of wire. It can kink and tangle a little bit. So just keep being a little bit mindful that you don't get any kinks in it, because if it does loop, you might find it then a little bit tricky to pull it through some of the beads. The beads have got beautiful sized holes, so you'll have plenty of ability to run that wire through several times if you needed to. But obviously, the more I bend this, the more I twist this, then it can get a little bit weaker as well, and we don't want that to happen. Good morning to Denise, and Chris is in as well. She says good morning. Well, I say she, it might be a he, I'm not sure, just says Chris. Hello to you, Chris. So I've bent my wire by bringing up those 2 ends together, just so I can find roughly the center. And then I'm going to get my spacers out. So I'm going to pull these out. They're just the most beautiful spacers. I love them. I use spacers with pretty much everything I can. Sorry, my light's flickering. I've just moved the cable. Okay, so I'm going to start off, once I've bent that wire, by popping on 5 spacers so they sit in the middle. That's why I've bent it first, because then I know those 5 are going to sit in the center. So just picking them up and threading them on, I'm going to add on 5. And then I will let them fall into the middle here. Now I'm going to bring both of my ends up together, and I'm going to add 1 spacer onto both ends. So both ends of my wire is going to go up through that spacer, and then I'm going to slide that down, and this is going to make my loop for my clasp. So by pulling them together, you'll see I've now got that lovely little loop, and you can just make sure that that's sitting right in position, so you've got that 1 bead there sitting in the middle. If you wanted to, you could add an extra one on and then you could position your jump ring in between, but I quite like doing it like this. I think it gives a nice shape. Good morning, Shirley. How are you doing? So I've added 5 onto the middle and 1 over both ends of the wire to make the loop for my clasp. Now I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to separate those ends out, and I'm going to add 3 spacers onto each end. And onto the other side. I'm going to add another 3. Mina says she's lost the Facebook Live. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Camille says it keeps kicking me out. So if you've had trouble, come and find us on YouTube. We are on Totally Beads YouTube. And we should be streaming okay from there. Okay, I've now positioned those 3 just underneath. And I'm going to take another 2 spaces. And I'm going to put both of those spaces onto both ends of the wire. So both of my tail ends now are running up through there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it. So you'll notice every now and again, I just kind of give it a little push with my thumb. And I'm making this little circle shape, a bit like I've done for the clasp, but this is going to be where my pearls start to sit inside. So I'm going to take my pearls off my strand. Carol says, yeah, she also got kicked out on Facebook also. I mean, I've got loads of you watching, which is lovely, but I'm hoping everyone can find us okay. Got stuff everywhere. Okay. Now, before I put my pearl on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 2 ends of my wire and I'm going to leave that last spacer that we put on, and I'm just going to run it back through this one here. So the second to last one that we put onto both. Now, don't worry if your lengths of wire aren't exactly the same length. You can just run them through separately. So I'm putting that back through, so missing that last spacer and coming back through the other. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull that wire. I'm going to be gentle with it, and I'm going to get that position. So I'm going to hold that spacer fairly close to these ones here, just between my thumb and my finger. And I'm going to guide these wires down. Now, I do tend to pull them together, but if they move away from each other, that's okay. You can just pull them down one at a time. Just be gentle with it. By pulling those 2 ends of the wire, I've brought that back up there. I'm now going to take my pearl and I'm going to pop that through both. So my 2 ends of wire is running back through the one pearl. And then I'm going to position my pearl in between those spaces. Now, the side I'm working on is going to be the inside of the bracelet. I'm always going to be working on this inside. So this is the outside, so you can't see the trails of wire. Whereas if I flip this side over, you can see how that's running. I'm hoping you'll be able to see it quite clearly with a bit of contrast here so you can see what I'm doing. So I've positioned my pearl in the middle, and then I'm going to bend that wire up, and you'll see around each side of the pearl are 3 spacer beads. Robin says, Camille, come on over to the YouTube side. And Camille says, you can't get rid of me that easily. Thank you so much, Jan, for the like and thumbs up. I really appreciate that. Yeah, Joanne says Facebook stopped. It must be the weather. Okay, so you can see I've got 3 spaces on one side and 3 on the other. So I'm going to get this central one here, and I'm going to bend that wire. So 1 is sitting there and 1 is sitting there. And I'm going to take each end and run that through. So I'm going to take that tail and I'm going to take it through this side of the spacer. And this is the bit I'm going to do gently because I don't want this to kind of kink and loop too much. So I've got that loop there, and as I pull it down, that wire will just sit nicely in. And then the other side, other tail end, is going to go back through the same spacer in the opposite direction. So taking that tail, just reposition my loop as I go. Take it slow in this bit, And you can see I've got those two little wires here. So because this is the inside of my bracelet, I'd like these two wires which run across this bead to come along the top, and then those wires will be sitting there. I'm now going to take those two ends of wire, and I'm just going to add 3 spaces onto each end, and then I'm going to start repeating that process. So 3 spaces onto one, three spaces onto the next. Let them drop up close. I'm going to bring the 2 tail ends together, and I'm going to add 2 spaces onto both of them. So they're going in the same direction. I've now formed that next little loop. So again, just make sure I'm working off on the inside. I form my next little loop which my pearl's going to sit into. So to close that over, I'm taking both ends of my wire and missing out that last spacer that I popped on, and I'm just going through the second to last one, so the one that went first over both wires. That wire then comes back down on itself. I hold it gently with my thumb just to make sure that spacer is sitting on top. Bring those wires down. And then I'm going to add on my next pearl. Both wires together, through the pearl in the same direction, and then just position that in. So you can see, I know I'm not going over this side, I'm going onto this side when I bend those wires over. And then this will make this little kind of trail of wire run all the way through the centre of the bracelet on the inside. So bringing it up around that central spacer, so it's sitting on each side, where I've got a wire sitting on each side. I'm just going through that one spacer in the middle, just wanting to go through both there, bringing it up in the opposite direction, so you can see it's starting to loop. So I'm just going to do it slowly and then give it a little twist just to make sure it's not going to loop and kind of kink my wire. And then this tail is going to go back through the same one in the opposite direction. So you've got lovely holes in these spaces, enough to get numerous wires through. Just before that loops, I'm just going to give it a little gentle twist to unloop it. And you'll see sometimes I just run it through my fingers afterwards, and then we repeat again. So it's just a constant repeat of that. 3 spaces onto each end. So I've got 3 spaces on one wire length, 3 spaces on the other. Then I'm going to pick them both up together and add another 2 onto both ends. So that wire is running in the same direction, just next to each other. Slide them all down. Position, so I've got my next loop. Sometimes I just push it between my thumb and my finger, and that will give me a little kind of space essentially for my pearl to sit into. I'm going to bring both tail ends together, ignoring the first one and just going through that second one. You can bring those wires through one at a time or together, whichever you find easiest. I hold it up so I've got this wire at the top so I can keep my placement of these spacers nice together where I want them. Gently pulling on each wire to create that little wrap essentially over the top of the beads. Taking my pearl, sliding that on both ends of the wire, position my pearl in the center, and then I'm going to have a little look at where my wire's running. So to go right in the middle again, I'm going to bring them up this time, and that's going to create this kind of up and down kind of motion of petals. I'd say they look like petals. So you can see that wire is now starting to run right in the middle, like on this one. Hopefully you can see that. So it's running in between the pearls. Camille says, looks like a lovely Christmas stacky. You could have this as whatever you want to. Do think they make lovely bracelets. Robin says, this is definitely a rewatch, Lady Natalie, but I'm excited to have a go. Honestly, it's really simple once you've started it. The only thing different is when you start your kind of loop for your clasp. This is just a pattern repeat. So I'm taking that wire then through each side, so it's running in the opposite direction of the spacer. Being very, very light and gentle with my wire, because you know it's got that lovely coating on it. I want that coating to stay on and it to look pretty. And the more gentle I am, the easier the wire is to work. I'm not fighting with it. And it's lovely to do this project with wire because it holds its shape. And you can kind of stretch these out a little bit as well. So if you want those kind of more exaggerated kind of leaf petals, you can just give it a little gentle pull and that will separate them out a little bit more. This one I've done a little bit more compact. So they're sitting quite close together, but just a very gentle pull, very, very gentle, will just space them out a little bit more. Another 3 onto each end. Drop them down. Bring in my wires together. Adding on 2 spacers over both. Create that shape. Bring both tail ends back up. So you do want to make sure you've got plenty of wire. I would say at least 2 meters for an 8-inch bracelet. You want to, you can add more into it, but you don't want to run short. It's just easier to use it as one very long length. Bringing them back through, pulling them in place, so that will hold that top spacer next to the other. I do tend to just move that wire so it's on top, because what you will find is if you're working off the inside of your bracelet, all the wires will sit inside. So when you turn it that way, you won't see how it works essentially. So now I'm going to pop my pearl on. So again, occasionally just running it through my fingers, getting out any little kinks, threading that wire back through the pearl, Give it a gentle little placement between my fingers so it's sitting nicely inside those beads. This time I'm bending it in this direction, so I've got my wires still running through the middle. If I go up that way, it's going to start curving, and you could make some lovely shapes with that, but for the bracelet we want it to run right through the middle, so it sits flat essentially. I'm then going to separate out these wires so they're sitting either side of that middle spacer. Bring in the wire through the spacer in one direction. This is what I mean by the loop. So I'm just, when it gets close, do it slowly. I don't want it to catch on any of the other beads. But if I keep that loop open and not twisted, it will go through really easily. Other wire is going to go back in the opposite direction. So it is going to want to cross. When it gets close, just watch it and pull that down. So you're creating like a V shape running across there. Camille says it looks complicated. It's not though, Camille, it's really not. It is just that pattern repeat. 3 spaces onto each side. Very repetitive, but a nice repetitive. You don't have to concentrate too much on what you're doing. 3 onto the other. I've done all the hard work. I've figured it out. I've faffed about with it. I've made sure I know what works. So you just copy this and it's easy. I promise. The first one, I was a bit like, took me a little while to figure out how I wanted them to sit. But then by the time I'd done 6, I completely mastered it. She says. Sliding those 2 spaces on. Gently sliding them down. Just a little bit of pressure between my thumb and my finger to create that little kind of space for my pearl to sit in. And I'm not bending the wire here at all because I don't need to. It's got 2 lengths of wire running out of it and it's going to have 2 lengths of wire running back through it. That hole in your spacer bead is really lovely, especially with this 0.4 wire, because it just glides through. Holding it this way up just so I can make sure that top spacer is sitting nicely and close. Gently pulling on the wires to pull one down, then the next, so they sit into place. And you can just give it a little maneuver with your finger if you want to, just to make sure they're sitting fairly flat. There's no sharp edges on them, so it will be comfortable against your wrist. Both ends together, picking up another pearl, running through the pearl in the same direction. Pop it in the middle. Have a little look where my weave is going. This time I'm going up. So I'm taking my wires, just gently placing them where I want them to sit. That's the joy of wire. It's got that memory. It goes and stays where you place it. You don't need to pull on it. You don't need to bend it. You're just placing it, putting it in position. Bring in that wire through that middle spacer here, so you can see which one I'm going through. There will be a spacer sitting above and below my pearl and on each side as well, so I'm going through the center one. Robin says, for me, this is my top 3 of all your designs, probably 1 for me, and with the exception of that magnificent butterfly you posted in the group. Oh, Robin, thank you so much. The butterfly I did was for a family member. It was, I can't show you it because she has it now and she's delighted with it. It was a project I really enjoyed doing, but I was very anxious, I suppose, to start it, just because I was using like a photograph bead So the light had to come through. I had an engraving on the back. I was using ashes, but they were very important pieces, and they represented my great auntie Beryl, so I'm glad she liked it. But thank you very much, Robin, that's very kind. Now if you start to get, like here I've got a little bit of a bend in the wire, that's probably because I tensed up a little bit thinking about the butterfly. I'm just going to be gentle with it and guide it through. If I need to, I'm not using my tools, I'm just using my fingers, but I'm just going to reposition. So just slow down with it if you feel like it's getting a little bit wiggly, and then back through in the other direction. So really straightforward, just a pattern repeat essentially of what I'm adding on, and you'll see it does start to grow fairly quickly. I mean 5 pearls there. We've got, obviously it's going to have my clasp on as well. That's already taken me to 2 inches. So just keep measuring it against your ruler as you go, and then you'll know exactly where you need to stop, or if you need to add some more on. I'm not going to do the full bracelet, I'm just going to do the section because it is very much just a pattern repeat. I'm adding on those 3 spaces to each end of my wire. I'm bringing both ends of my wire together to add the 2 spaces on. Back down, open them up a little bit just to get that rounded space and shape with my thumb and my finger. Both of these tail ends are going to go back through that first spacer, so I'm just going to hold it up, let gravity let that spacer drop down to where the others are. Bring my 2 ends of wire back through. Gentle positioning, that bead will come with it at the top to kind of lock it in place. I'm going to just twist my wire so they're sitting at the top, because I think they look better when they're on the inside. So sometimes it might loop over this side. If that's the case, I'm just going to give it a little twist. Again, no tools really with this at all. I'll use my pliers at the end just to tuck it in when I create my little wrap loop for my clasp, and I'll use my wire cutters to obviously cut my wire, but everything else is just done by hand and placement. Taking that wire up, so I'm just kind of putting them either side to create that little V, and then back through 1, bring it slowly, and then on the other side, coming back through the same spacer, and then they will create like a little V. Good morning, Brenda. She says good morning to everybody. She's a little bit late this morning. She's going to watch the replay and she thinks it's beautiful. Thank you so much. Yolanda says good morning from Michigan. It is early here. Very good early morning to you, Yolanda. I hope you're well. Thank you, Camille. That's really kind. She says the butterfly was exceptional. I think I'll probably do, I will do a butterfly again. And I learn from it, like you do each time you make something. You think, oh, maybe I'd try this next time. The joy of a butterfly is it's got to be symmetrical, hasn't it? So whatever you do on one, you've got to do on the other wing. And when you're working with different kind of shaped components and things, I had some lovely beryl pieces, which obviously, because it was the stone is the name of the loved one it was commemorating, and they were slightly irregular in size, joy gemstones. So I did have to kind of work on that. So something like this to do is an absolute breeze. If you're wondering what I'm talking about and you want to have a little look at my work, I am Rock Scissors Paper _ crafts on Instagram and Rock Scissors Paper on Facebook. So you can find all my own personal makes there. If you're wondering where to find me in regards to tutorials I deliver, you can find me on Natalie Patton Wire Artist on Facebook. I also have a YouTube, but I don't stream live on it. Probably should, but I do have a playlist if you want to find that. It's just, if you type in Natalie Patton, Patten, you'll find me all over the place. Denise said, found you, disappeared on Facebook. How long does it take you to finish one of these bracelets? I don't know. I mean, I'm not rushing with it, so probably about 14 minutes, half an hour. The butterfly, oh God, that took me, I stopped counting the hours. Full weekend. Most of it was just looking at it, scratching my head. This comes together quite quickly. And you don't have to do the full section. I've made this run all the way around my wrist. If you wanted to, you could just do a little section of it. Just managed to catch myself through there. You could just do a little section of it and then attach like a chain or just some more pearls or anything, or spacers, and just have a kind of central going across your wrist. So if you were just doing a section like this, it'd probably take you about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. Brenda says, what time is it for you, Yolanda? It's 5:45 a.m. in North Carolina. Gosh, you are early birds. Thank you so much for joining me, whether it's late or night or early morning, wherever you are. Okay, I'm going to start finishing off, I think. I'll do another couple of sections. So again, I'm just positioning my wire so it's going to sit either side, still running up through the centre. If you do make a mistake and you go down, say if I carry on and I now go through this section, you can just pull it out, as long as you're gentle with it. I have done that and I have reworked it, so you will be absolutely fine. Back through that spacer on one side, running through the other. So I'll do one more and then I'll finish off. I'll show you how to finish it. And there's lots of different ways you can finish it. You can do multiple different ways. I just find the way I show you is fairly simple and straightforward. Bringing that wire, making sure that it's, if there is a little bend, it might catch and you've got that little bit of a loop, then I want that not to catch on the edge and just run through the middle, so that wire is fairly taut. Okay, so last instructions on what to do. Really straightforward. 3 spacers going on to each end of my 0.4 millimeter wire. Started with about 2 generous meters of this to make sure I've got more than enough for 8-inch bracelet. And then bringing those wires together, I'm going to take another 2 spacers and I'm bringing the wire through the spacers in the same direction. Bringing them down, making a little circular shape, bringing those 2 ends of the wire so it comes back up. It's going to ignore that first spacer. I'm going to hold it this way because I find it easier, because it will make sure that this spacer here that I'm going through sits nicely next to those little petal type parts that are going to surround my pearl. So the wires are coming back through. That spacer will then sit on top of the other one as I guide it down. Pull them both together, and then I tend to do it separately. I'm going to position that wire so it's at the top. You can kind of move and twist these as well. If I've got a little bit of a space here, so you can see that that's not quite close down, just going to push it between my two fingers, between my thumb and my finger, those two spaces, and guide that back in position. And then I can pull these wires down a little bit more. And you can see that will kind of close it up a little bit. Both ends of my wire going back through the beautiful rose soft pink pearl that I've got into the centre, and then I'm going to just have a little look where that wire is going, so I know it's running across the middle here. So I'm going to bend my wire very gently, so I'm positioning them either side of that central spacer. Where to purchase reasonable price beads and wires? Well, you're in the right place. We are totallybeads.co.uk and we ship worldwide. So I will share the link to the page again at the end of this, Yolanda, so you can see where you can get your kits from. Everything we make in the tutorials here are together in a kit. So you can buy your kit and you've got everything you need to make exactly what we're making on the live tutorial. So we do ship worldwide. You can change your currency on the page. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Brenda says, I have trouble sleeping since my mum passed because I was so used to being up and down with her. You would think after a year I could get onto schedule. Oh, Brenda. No, darling, I don't think you can. You just try and find comfort in the little things. If you're up in the middle of the night, then get making, do some jewellery making or something just to keep your hands busy and your mind occupied. And, you just go to your own timetable if you can, if, don't know if you're working or anything, but you don't need to be on anyone else's schedule, do you? You just do what works for you. I find that I'm very much a night owl and not a morning person. I have to be up early because I've got a little one. But if I could sit up all night, that's when I feel most creative, to be honest, usually when he's asleep. Phoenix says butterfly. Someone mentioned butterfly. I hate it when I'm late. I'll have to catch up. I love butterflies, snowflakes, and phoenixes. Meg, the Sprocker Spaniel too, when she doesn't want to get up at 5. Phoenix, we've just been chatting about butterfly that I've made on my page. If you want, you're not on Facebook, are you, or Instagram? I will send you a picture of it and you can see what we've been talking about. If you like snowflakes, Phoenix, you need to come and join me on Monday because I'm making snowflakes, which will be big statement pendants, but you can also have them as decorations as well if you want to. Right, okay, so I have made, say, the length that I'm wanting to. So I'm going to pretend that that's 6 inches, or I'm just going to make it so I've got a little section here. So to finish, I'm going to bring my wires together just around that spacer, and I'm going to add 5 spacers, just like I did to start, onto both ends of my wire. So if you started with 6, finish with 6. If you've started with 5, finish with 5. So it's the same. And pop in those spacers onto both of the wires. And then I'm just going to position it into a little loop. So I'm going to push my spacers down together and bring that wire round like so. So those wires are crossing over there, and I'm going to just make a little wrap loop. So I'm going to hold it between my finger and my thumb, and I'm just going to bring that wire round and wrap a few times, maybe 2 or 3. So you'll see this is how I've started, this is how I've finished. It will look the same. I've just got that little bit of wire, which when I turn it that way, you won't see it. Really, it's just going to blend in with the rest of it. But you can finish this in another way if you prefer. And then I'm going to cut my wires off my tail. And then with my pliers, it's the first time I'm really needing any tools, I'm going to make sure that they are tucked in. So I'd like to tuck them in on the outside of my bracelet. So you can see any little ends are going to be away from my wrist, but they're going to be fully tucked down, so they're not going to catch on any clothes or anything like that. And you can see this is the way my bracelet's going to be positioned. So this is the inside of it, the way you've been working. And if I flip it this way, you can't see really any of that wire path. If I want to splay them out a little bit, I can just give it a gentle pull, and I can also manipulate these so I can twist these ends up if I want to kind of sit them, because that's the joy of wire. You've got that memory there, so I can flick those ends up if I want those to be a little bit more pronounced. And now all I'm going to do is just attach on my jump rings and my lobster clasp. Obviously this isn't going to be a bracelet in this size. If I was going to use just this side, then I wouldn't add my clasp on, I'd just add my jump rings. Maybe you could create a little pearl section on the other side, or you could add more spaces or a little bit of chain, whatever you fancy, but you will probably do it. You've got enough in your kit to make 3 8-inch bracelets that run along like that. Brenda says, thank you, Phoenix. I was starting to think something was wrong with me. Oh, Phoenix says to Brenda, it's a hard time. As family, we nursed my gran for 6 months. And at the time, it was just giving her all the love and the time we could. Took mum and all of us time to adjust 7 years on. I don't think you ever get over losing your mum, do you? I mean, I'm so grateful that I've got my mummy. I'm sending you loads of love, Brenda, because, you know, it's hard, sweetheart. Okay, so I've opened up my jump ring. I am sliding my jump ring. You can use a large jump ring if you wish, through onto one side and closing it back up again. Ooh, it gives me the click. I love that click. That click means my jump ring is fully closed. If you see my jump ring, it's slightly staggered when I open it, because the way you make a jump ring is you get like a dowel, you wrap that wire over and over, and then you cut it. So they are usually slightly staggered. To open up, I'm going to get a grip on my pliers. I'm using 2 pairs of pliers, and I'm going to give it a little twist to open. Not too much, I'm just going to turn it towards me. Now I'm opening my jump ring towards me and closing it away from me. I'm not opening it out that way. If I open it out that way, what's going to happen is it's going to start to weaken this part of the jump ring, and it's also going to distort the shape. So towards me and away from me, or away from me towards me, whichever, just not outwards. And then I'm going to slide that through. So between my spaces, just going to hook around that wire, and then I'm going to add my lovely little lobster clasp on as well. As I say, if you want to, you can add an extra jump ring onto this. You can add a larger jump ring onto this. I've not had any problems with these lovely 6mm. I think they look nice and dainty. And then to close that up, I'm just going to hook that through. But if you did find that you wanted a little bit more space, you could always just add an extra jump ring or a slightly larger jump ring, and you can attach that onto that side. Just get it in position. Ooh, it clicked again. So you can see all I'm doing is just turning it away from me, making sure they're fully lined up and it's fully closed. So if you wanted to add that extra jump ring on, or a larger one, you'll find you've got a little bit more space for your clasp to hook onto like that. Obviously, you're not going to make anything that tiny. If you do, you're just going to make a section of it. So these are your beautiful bracelets today. I'm going to take you back onto the website so you can see what we've been making. We are totallybeads.co.uk. If you head into the video tutorial section, if I go back a page, just so you know how to find us, there's our lovely faces, my beautiful headshot in my kitchen. I need to get a proper one done. You can click into video tutorials or how to make jewellery. There's lots of ways to get into the video tutorial category. You can see these are all the bits and bobs that we make. Anything you like, everything's there in your kit. So you've got some from myself, from Laura, from Kitty as well. There's all sorts of ways to find different tutorials, whether you want to look by bead, by date, by technique, by kind. If you want to make a bracelet, you can head into the bracelet section. But the kit we've been putting together and making today is the Yvonne wire bracelets. If you click here, you can change your currency to wherever you're watching from in the world, because we ship worldwide. We've also got a free UK delivery there when you spend £40. So you can see the kits today are £9.99, and that makes 3 bracelets up in each kit. You've got aubergine, forest green, French grey, light peach, rose pink and a blue to choose from, and everything you need to make these bracelets are there in your kit. The only thing not supplied is your tools. Everything else is there to make 3 bracelets. So I hope you've enjoyed it today. I've really enjoyed making them. I think they're really, really lovely. My computer is not working. Where have you gone? Stop sharing my screen. Let me say goodbye to everybody. And everybody is sending Brenda lots and lots of love. Jan says they're always in your heart. And, this is just a nice, safe space to come. We're a lovely community online. If you ever want to have a chat with people, whether it's about beads, whether it's about any type of jewellery making, any type of crafting, we've got a lovely, lovely page on Facebook if you want to come and join us. And also share your makes. You can share in the handmade page as well. Jan says these are gorgeous. Thank you, Natalie. You're most welcome. And Brenda says they're beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today, wherever you are watching from in the world. I'm going to be back with you on Monday. As I say, I'm going to be making some beautiful snowflakes. They're all the way over there, so I can't show you them, but there is an event set up, so you should be able to see what I'm talking about. You can make them as Christmas decorations. You can have them as a big festive statement piece. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you come back and see me on Monday if you did. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. Take care of yourself.